Good morning. My name is Dr. Joy Spraggins, and I'm recognized by my trademark name, Dr. Joy. I'm the founder and CEO of Legacy Bridges STEM Academy, Inc. We'd like to welcome all of our audience today that is in person, as well as joining us from around the world. We are at the Air Force Sergeant Association Education Professional Development Conference, and we, Legacy Bridges STEM Academy, Inc., is a Air Force Sergeant Association mission partner. Today, we are joined by our Air Force leaders who have been retired and active and have come back to share some leadership excellence with all of our audience today. We're also joined with our legendary Tuskegee Airman, Red-tailed Tuskegee Airman, Lieutenant Colonel George Hardy. He's a Red-tailed Tuskegee Airman fighter pilot and an engineer. Later today, we'll be joined with NASA's, Legacy Bridges is also a NASA Air Force Sergeant mission partner. We are launching our NASA Astro Camp, and later today, we'll be joined with our NASA astronauts talking to students from the International Space Station. So before we begin, it is our honor, all of our honor today, to recognize the legacy of the Tuskegee Airmen, the contribution they've made to our country, and our goal is to make sure that we continue to preserve the legacy and legacy excellence. Many of you have heard of the Tuskegee Airmen and their legends, and today we're honored to share with you just a brief video of representing Lieutenant Colonel George Hardy and his active participation that he does, not only with companies such as Boeing, but all the way working with junior ROTC, our Civil Air Cadets, as well as our National Tuskegee Airmen youth programs. So ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy a brief video featuring Lieutenant Colonel George Hardy.
For the first time in decades, Boeing is adding a new plane model to its registry, the T-7A Red Hawk, designed and built right here in St. Louis. 5 on your side's Tracy Hinson explains why the name is as significant as the plane itself.
Red tails. That's what Allied forces called the Tuskegee Airmen, the first black military aviators, flying escort alongside heavy bombers.
I think if the Tuskegee Airmen would see us having the red tails painted on, I think they would be very proud and honored that we want to continue and carry on the tradition that they started.
In the audience of Boeing's T-7A Red Hawk unveiling, a World War II, Korea, Vietnam veteran Tuskegee Airman.
Retired U.S. Air Force Lieutenant Colonel George Hardy.
It's nice to know that we were remembered and whatnot. It's tough back in those days when we went through.
The new planes, honoring his team's legacy, will help train the next generation of airmen.
The T-7 is going to be the workhorse for Air Education and Training Command, because in less than 10 years, over half, approaching 60% of our combat air forces will be flying 5th-generation fighters. This aircraft is going to answer the call for that.
The slick plane is a big deal.
The world's most advanced trainer, the T-7A Red Hawk.
And it's something us St. Louisans can be very proud of.
Our workforce here in St. Louis, second to none, has revolutionized the way aircraft are designed and built around the world.
The T-7A Red Hawk, digitally designed and made in the STL. Tracy Hinson, 5 on your side.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. So before we hear from Lieutenant Colonel George Hardy, today we've asked some legacy leaders from the Air Force if they would be kind enough to join us and share with us their legacy leadership excellence. First, we have speaking is Brigadier General Robert D. Bowie. He's a now retired Special Assistant to the Director of Air Force Guard, Assistant Secretary of Air Force Energy, Installation, and Environment. Good morning.
Good morning. How you doing, Joy? Dr. Joy?
Oh, we're doing great. First of all, before we begin, we want to congratulate you on your outstanding retirement celebration. Actually, Dalton wrote, he wrote by and said that the Air Force at the base, everyone was just cheering and very happy to be there. So we wanted to extend a sincere congratulations to you.
Thank you very much. It was an awesome event. About 350 people attended, and I call it my team buoy. My legacy was there, and we celebrated together for the 34-year career. So thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And thank you for joining us. And we also have joining us today, retired Colonel Clarence Johnson. His title that we shared previously was Director of Diversity Management Operations Center for Defense Human Resource Activity Office of the USD. And we'd like to welcome you this morning, Colonel Johnson, and we understand that you have a new title. So would you share your new title with us this morning?
Well, good morning, Dr. Joy. Let me first say thank you so much for your leadership in this very important endeavor. I have been fortunate enough over the last 50 years to be in public service, 29 years in our Air Force, and the last 21 as a civil service member. And my last title is a senior advisor to the director of the Defense Human Resource Activity. But thank you for being here today and for sharing your wisdom and your talent with this august group.
Well, thank you for joining us this morning. And so now we'd like to open up and have a conversation with Lieutenant Colonel George Hardy. And we want to thank you so much for your service and the contribution that you have made for us and to us, and for your leadership in helping us build that next generation. So we would like to hear from you. What's the message that you would like to share with all of us? And what has been your greatest proud moment of all that you've been through? Because you've been through many wars. If you could just share with us about your history.
Well, thanks so much for inviting me. And thanks so much for showing that P7. That was a wonderful plane in my future. When seeing my name on it at the time, it was unveiled. The thing that gets me so much is that the title of it, Red Hawk, red from the red tails of Tuskegee Airmen. And the Tuskegee Airmen flew the Warhawk, the P-40 Warhawk, and that's where we get the Red Hawk. And the tails of the first airplanes are painted red in the honor of the Tuskegee Airmen flying red tails. So that is something that I don't know. It just boggles the mind to realize that those guys that I flew with are going to be remembered in history. Because those first airplanes coming off the line for many years to come will have their red tails painted, and people will know what it means, the red tail, Tuskegee Airmen. And I know the guys who flew as red tails would be so proud to see what has happened, and that Boeing is able to produce such a wonderful airplane for us. Thank you so much.
Well, this is excellent. And so, General Bowie, in your role as, working with the Air Force National Guard, how did the Tuskegee Airmen play a role in your life and the leadership that you had in the National Guard?
Well, first and foremost, if we don't have the Tuskegee Airmen, we might not have desegregation in the Department of Defense and the federal government. That those actions, those key actions of those members backed Forrest Truman, I feel, to make that happen in executive order. And so that's just the start of it. For me, by the excellence of the Tuskegee Airmen, as an African-American, as Black, it gives me, like I said, we get more opportunities. For me personally, I just had the opportunity, previous to my last assignment, to lead the presidential inauguration in preparation for all the ceremonial events. And actually had to move through COVID, severe weather, and we had a contested election. Really tough things to work through. But I learned You don't always have the best assignments, the best opportunities. You got to take advantage of them, and that perseverance. The same thing the Tuskegee Airmen went through. Ultimately, I had the opportunity to be the first officer to salute the President of the United States and the Vice President. But like I said, that perseverance, taking those assignments and those things, they set the tone for that, and that's a legacy, as previously mentioned.
That's awesome. That's amazing. And so, Colonel Johnson, in your role for diversity and inclusion, we know that, you have been very active in many of programs that have dealt with, I know you're a graduate of Tuskegee University. Could you share with us in your role, both from the civilian side, how has the Tuskegee Airmen played a role in your life and your leadership?
Thank you much for that question, Dr. Joy. Let me first say that the legacy of the Tuskegee Airmen remains with us today and serves, I believe, as a perpetual guide to leadership excellence. Dr. Joy, we stand on the shoulders of these giants, and it was so fitting that last month, the Department of Defense and indeed the nation took time to celebrate the 75th anniversary of President Truman signing Executive Order 9981, effectively integrating military forces. And of course, the success of the Tuskegee Airmen, as well as other Black units, certainly played a huge role in President Truman signing the executive order. The legacy of the Tuskegee Airmen, I would submit, which served us well today in our pursuit for leadership excellence, first and foremost, I think, is service. Service to our nation, service to our community. Of course, the Tuskegee Airmen had to fight wars on two fronts, but still their passion was in service to the nation. The legacy of Tuskegee Airmen also includes maximizing the impact of teamwork. So today, leveraging your team's capabilities toward mission success is also a good recipe for leadership excellence. Thank you.
Well, that's awesome. And thank you. We're so excited. We always love being on the same platform and sharing the wisdom, and especially from the Tuskegee University, HBCU played a major role in growing the next generation of pilots. when you speak about teamwork, I just want to introduce you to Lisa Parks. Lisa is from the Roscoe Draper, who also is a red-tailed Tuskegee Airman, and she has come on with us, Lieutenant Colonel George Hardy, to support the development of the scholarship program that we would like to implement with the scholars, and that is the scholars having a 1-week training session at universities such as Tuskegee University. So, Lisa, would you, I know that you weren't expected to say hello, but we always welcome the other, our Red Tail partners. Would you just say hello to everyone?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Joy, for this opportunity. Good morning to everyone. Greetings from the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection, Philadelphia. It is indeed an honor to be here with you, to hear your stories, to hear the journeys that you have made, and grab some information, partner in and grab some information that we might share to our younger generation. I am the Assistant Secretary to the Roscoe Draper chapter of Black Pilots of America. And again, God bless you.
Thank you so much. I had the pleasure of being with Lisa and the Roscoe Draper. We actually had over 100 students.
We had over 120 kids for our airport day a couple weeks ago at the Northeast Airport. We had Channel 6 helicopter pilots. We had Legacy School. We took them on a tour of the airport operations to the control tower. And the children were able to get their first flight in private planes owned by Blacks. Right from the neighborhood. They were amazed to know that the pilot for Channel 6 was a guy who grew up right in 17th and Diamond, where a lot of the kids grew up, and they were like, now they want to take a picture. And now they have hopes and dreams to know that they can too also be pilots and own airplanes and just, expand their education and their knowledge in the aviation field.
And this is wonderful. And at the event, Legacy Bridges also launched our NASA Globe program, which focused on helping the pilots understand the weather, the clouds, the satellites that comes from NASA. And we are going to be, that is going to be a part of the program that we develop with the Lieutenant Colonel George Hardy Scholars Program. And so while we're on the Tuskegee Airmen and the importance, I just want to, we're going to probably go, we're all a team. So this time I just want to introduce Chief Frank Kilbrew, who's been my mentor. He's a Legacy Bridges board member. He's also the second vice president of the East Coast Tuskegee Airmen chapter. And I'd like to say to you, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Dr. Joy. I want to thank you for doing this program, because programs like this, we really need these to educate our young people, because they have a bright future ahead of them, and just we need to be able to show them the way and give them the opportunity to walk that path, because there are many opportunities available, and we just want to allow them to take advantage of these opportunities. I would like to congratulate John Bowie on his retirement. That's something that a lot of people look forward to. And yes, sir. And congratulations, Colonel Johnson. I know that I have known you for several years, and you have been a focal point for helping our youth in the program there. And Colonel Hardy, what can I say? You know, I am looking forward to meet you in person. I've been on the Zoom with you a couple of times there, but I want to thank you and applaud you for what you have done for this country and this nation, for our young people, because you have set the path, and a lot of young people that are in the service now were able to stand on your shoulders and get to where they are now. So thank you again for your service and your dedication.
Thank you, Chief. And I also would like to introduce Delton Fontroy. He is a Legacy Bridges board member. I could not do this without his leadership. He's been helping me bridge the gap between Philadelphia and Maryland, and has been working with myself and Chief Kilbrew around the clock. So we'd like to say to you, good morning, Delton, and welcome.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Delton Fontroy, and I'm just, it's a pleasure for me to be here this morning among some of the great people that I have served the country with. I'm a retired Air Force member. I served 5 presidents with Air Force One, and I've been in aviation over 41 years. I'm a new member of the Tuskegee Airmen, and it's a pleasure to just be involved with an organization that I followed throughout my career for over 21 years. Right now, I'm the Veterans Affairs Officer for Dr. Joy, and we're going to have an office over at the Air Force Sergeants Association. So we're looking forward to open up that and to be involved with the Junior ROTC program to extend the Legacy Bridges tradition and names, and to prepare the pre-college students to get involved and to serve their country, you know, with the Air Force Academy and all the things and all the proud things of all these people here we're talking to today have done.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
And when we speak of the Air Force and Junior ROTC and ROTC excellence, one of the things that's really important, because it's important that we do this on a national level. And so before we transition over to hear from Lieutenant Colonel Branch and his team, and I want to be able to recognize Eddie Herberson, and he is part of the East Coast Tuskegee Airmen, but he's also leading the national Tuskegee initiative. And so good morning, sir. And I would appreciate if you would come on and just share what our focus is nationally, And we are working diligently to have all of our states involved. And it is a public policy initiative. So I think it's best to hear from our chairman, Eddie.
Thank you, Dr. Joy. And it's to be on a platform with such distinguished guests, and I am privileged. But I won't take up a lot of your times, and you have to excuse my voice. I have my granddaughter with me, and I think she passed something on to me. You know, I was having kids in the house. But I'm a member of East Coast chapter. I was a director for a couple of terms, but right now I serve the National Committee as chairman of the Tuskegee Airmen Commemoration Resource Committee. And what that committee's responsibility is assisting all the chapters throughout this world in getting their states recognized the fourth Thursday in March as Tuskegee Airmen Commemoration Day. And we want to do this so that we can have a day that commemorates and a day. It's not a day off. It's going to be a day on. And why the month of March, you might ask? It's because March serves as a special time during the Tuskegee experience. First of all, the first unit, the 99th Pursuit Squadron, was activated in March. Also, the first aviation cadets received their wings in March. And then it culminates with the Congressional Gold Medal being awarded by President George W. Bush to the Tuskegee Airmen in March. So we want to do this as a collective national organization and have every state recognize the fourth Thursday in March as Tuskegee Airmen Commemoration Day. We have about 10 states so far. This committee was just put together. Well, it's been a standing committee, but we just started being active this year. And we're going to track all the states that have this done thus far. There are states that have this year, like Pennsylvania and Florida, but their charter only called for this year. But what we want to do is help them go back or give them the resources and the ammunition to go back to their state legislature and get this passed so that every succeeding year will be Tuskegee Airmen Commemoration Day. And they wouldn't have to go through all the paperwork again and again and again. So we're gearing up. We're going to come up with a handbook. We're going to have a battle plan for those chapters and just give them a start. Because you may ask, how do we make this done by the states? How do we get the state? And it's not an easy process. I can tell you, and Chief Killebrew can back me, the state, we worked with Virginia, we worked with the city of DC, we worked with Maryland, and it took 2 or 3 years of going back and forth to those branches, and we're working with politicians. So we have to use a grain of salt when you're dealing with that. But believe me, it can be done, and it will be done. And also, the last note is that there's also some movement in action. A letter has been sent to President Biden requesting him make it a presidential proclamation. And also, we have a legislation movement in Congress. So, but again, we're dealing with the political side of the house, and it takes time, but we do want every state to make that recognition, to get it on that state calendar. Again, I'd like to thank you, Dr. Joy, for giving me the opportunity to share on this platform some of the things that I'm hoping I can be a part of making happening. But I do say it takes all of us working collectively together, and it can be done. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. And I wanted to give a special thank you to you. When I first got introduced to the East Coast Tuskegee Airmen, I was introduced by Delaware, the Delaware John Porter chapter. And they connected me to Chief Killebrew, who connected me to you, who connected me to the national office, who connected me to Lieutenant Colonel George Hardy. So it does take a teamwork, and it takes village to move, to really move legislation as well as leadership excellence, so that we preserve our history and transfer that knowledge back into our communities and to our emerging leaders who look forward to learning from you. Because one of the things that we're often, is often said is, where are our leaders who look like us? And so we want to thank everyone who, and your leadership excellence for helping us move that needle to the next level. So at this time, when we talk about the next generation, I just would like to ask Lieutenant Colonel Mark Blanche, if you would be kind enough to join us. It has been wonderful that throughout the years that Colonel Branch has helped us look at aerospace science to help us expand the junior ROTC. So Colonel Branch.
Thank you, Dr. Joy. Yeah, I teach junior ROTC at Oxon Hill High School. I've been there for 10 years. It's been a great experience. And, what our mission is to develop citizens of character. And we do that through our curriculum, but also by instructors individually, expose them to our experience. And one of my best experiences is I was exposed to the East Coast chapter of the Tuskegee Airmen back in the early 80s. And I became a member in, I think, 85 or 86. Networking through the East Coast chapter of Tuskegee Airmen, they actually were pivotal in making sure that I received the initial position that I was entitled to. And it was a great experience. So I owe a great debt of gratitude to all Tuskegee Airmen, but especially East Coast chapter members, of which my grandfather pulled me in back in, I think, 85 or 86 as a member there.
We do have one of our partners with us and that is the Howard University ROTC. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
So could you share with us about your leadership in your role as in your unit at the Howard University ROTC?
Absolutely. So I am very recently became the commander here at Air Force ROTC Detachment 130 at Howard University. We actually are the host detachment for 8 universities in the Washington, D.C. area. Our detachment is incredibly unique across the nation. We are more than 50% minority and we are more than 60% female, which if you keep track of the stats is not what the Air Force looks like today. So I have a lot of cadets who are really excited about that, who are looking to help make change across the spectrum of bringing in more women, bringing in more minorities, bringing in more diversity of thought, and all of that. So we're a 4-year commissioning source to bring in second lieutenants. We teach largely leadership as our focus, right? And building good critical thinkers, decision makers, and all of that. I do, if you don't mind, I want to share one thing because I carry something with me every single day. I have for about 4 years. Sure. I had the very great honor of flying with the 332nd Air Expeditionary Wing several years ago. And I'll tell you, the legacy of the Tuskegee Airmen lives on very, very strongly with that unit. We were extremely proud to carry on that legacy, the perseverance, courage of all the Tuskegee Airmen. I was very proud to be a part of that unit.
Well, thank you. And thank you so much for joining us. And we're so excited because one of our goals is to make sure that we want to support you and increase more women in the Air Force. So at this time, there is Janet. Okay.
Hi. Yeah. Hi.
How are you? Good morning.
Very well. Thank you. I was invited here by General Bowie. I am the Executive Vice President in the Office of the CEO of Terrascale. Now, what are we? Okay, I'll start my video. I look terrible. Hi, how are you? What we do is green infrastructure. And specifically, we're doing this at global scale. And we we have about 20 projects slated in Japan. And we're just getting started in the United States. And we're actually kicking things off in Georgia. We have a contracting team, a federal government and state government contracting team headed up by retired generals and our cybersecurity officer, our chief cybersecurity officer, who's actually done a lot of federal contracting and has a lot of experience in that arena. And basically what we intend to do is green energy, certainly data centers and green cloud. That's the way we're kicking off. And eventually we'll get involved with NASA as, we'll get involved with NASA and satellites. We're actually a public-private partnership type of corporation, which means that we work with the government as opposed to against it, which is kind of refreshing these days. Actually very refreshing. So, and that's really our point of difference.
Well, we're excited that you've joined us and we're looking forward to working with you. Energy is an important career field that is so important. So, and we'd love to learn more as we continue to learn, look at STEM careers. I just want to say good morning to Deborah Keefe. If you could just say hello to everyone, and we want to thank you for all of your leadership. And thank you for working with us as we begin to work with the junior ROTC. So Colonel Branch, you've had several cadets who have joined us, and we have it's only about 2 minutes because we want to introduce you to Ernest Levert, Lockheed Martin retiree, Legacy Bridges board member, and he is going to be sharing with us about his legacy aboard the International Space Station. But if we have any of your cadets would like to ask any of our leaders a question, Lieutenant Colonel George Hardy, please do so now.
Okay, we have cadets Gurnswamy, Kanu, and Jones, who were part of the leadership for the Cadet Officer Leadership Program this summer. So I'll let them go ahead and ask their questions if they have any.
I am Cadet Guruswamy. I was the commanding officer for this year's COP. And I have a question for Lieutenant Colonel George Hardy. Out of all of your combat missions, what do you suppose is your favorite combat mission?
I would say my favorite combat missions was when I was flying with the 99th Squadron in Europe, flying the P-51 Mustang fighter, the best fighter in the Air Force at that time, and I'm still just 19 years old.
Wow. Great question. And next, anyone else would like to ask a question? Cadets?
Good morning. I'm Cadet Captain Jones from Oxon Hill, and I was the operations commander for this year's CLOP. I actually had a question for General Bowie. What was the highlight of your career after 34 years?
Thank you. Well, as I mentioned previously, I had the opportunity to lead the inauguration DoD team to support all Sergeant Medal Front. So saluting the president and vice president was pretty awesome. But all the way back in the first Obama, I was also the first guardsman to salute the president and prepare for that. I was on the guard side for that. So I've had a great opportunity on these inaugural events to do these type things. And I can't explain the energy in the city of about 200 million people and marching down the street and being a part of that first Obama administration turnover, that peaceful transition. And like I said, it's tearful because like my mom said, you just could never thought that would be possible. There would be a Black president. So that was probably the highlight of my career.
Excellent question. Thank you. Other cadet, do we have another question?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. My name is Cadet Colonel Canoe. I go to Duval High School, and I was the vice commander of this year's Cadet Officer Leadership Program. My question is, what was the most challenging part of having to uphold the legacy of the Tuskegee Airmen? And this question is general, it's for anybody to answer.
I'll go. I'd say is that perseverance that General Bowie talked about. It's not quitting. When one barrier is put up in front of you, it doesn't mean you need to stop. You just find a way around it, over it, or through it.
Excellent. And so at this time, it is my pleasure to introduce you to Ernest Levert, because when we talk about air and space, these are STEM career opportunities, career pathways. You heard Janet talk about energy, and now we want to share with you about the space opportunity. So it's my honor to introduce you to Ernest Levert. He is a Legacy Bridges board member. He's also recently retired from Lockheed Martin fellow. He is a International Space Station welder history maker, and I'll turn it over to Ernest. Good morning, Ernest, and welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Joy. It's an honor and a pleasure to be a part of this awesome team again, for the fact that I have thoroughly enjoyed working with Dr. George Harding over the past few years with Dr. Joy. But yes, I just recently retired after 36 years at Lockheed Martin as a rocket scientist. Yes, you're familiar with rocket scientist, and the name is Ernest Levert. So everybody asks the question, Levert, I'll get that out of the way right now. A. Levert, Joe Levert are my cousins. And so I'm the rocket scientist of the family. But if you can start the presentation real quick, Charles, real quick. I worked for Lockheed Martin in production operations, but I started off in the United States Navy as a welder. I went through a basic training and then went straight to a high pressure welding school. And so with that being said, I have thoroughly enjoyed serving my country like all the other gentlemen on this call. But the fact is when you look at the space station program, I met Dr. Ron McNair back in 1981 at Theo High University, my junior year. And he was an awesome speaker, PhD, MIT, and he had a PhD in laser physics. And he told us all to not be a typical engineer, picking an area, but just becoming the expert. So I did. So I chose Power Beam Technologies. But at the end of the day, when I graduated from High School University, 18 job offers. My first job was working on maintenance for Shuttle Challenger. So when the Challenger blew up, I thought I'd make a mistake on the gimbal joints with main engines that cost my friend his life and plus the other astronauts. But it's the fact that we know the O-rings. But seriously, working for Lockheed Martin and working in the space station was a dream come true for me because growing up in Cleveland, Ohio, as a welder, I was, high school, Navy, then graduated from High School University, and then we started working in the International Space Station. So the space station is up there, and I saw the launch in 2000, taking the P6 truss up to the space station. Next slide, please. When you look at the space station, it's a beautiful test facility, but we built the thermal control units for the astronauts and the space station itself. So this is my welding team. We built the thermal control units in Dallas, right here in Grand Prairie, the photovoltaic radiation heat rejection system. Without these systems, the astronauts would not be alive up there because every 90 minutes, plus or minus 200 degrees in outer space. Therefore, these systems have to work. And I designed 15,000 class A welding system on the space station. So this is my welding team. Here you can see every weld inspected 5 times. We have to do everything to make sure that they're right. I say again, you travel 17,500 miles per hour, or 250 nautical miles. That system go bad, they're gonna die. So we make it right. So I'm thoroughly happy to be part of this team. This is a dream come true for me. And as a rocket scientist, I thoroughly have enjoyed working for U.S. Army on the rockets and missiles. So this is, you can see the radios hanging down from the space station. And these are the thermal control units. The ones on the far right and the left are the photovoltaic radiators. And the one in the center, our heat rejection system, controls the environmental cruise core, the black box environmental test chamber. So with that being said, there's my working hour space, and anytime I look up at the space station, I thank God for this opportunity. So I'll leave by saying, as a leader in the world and have traveled the world, 42 countries because of welding and welding technology, I would tell all the students, with God in your life and faith in yourself, and the second achievement goes no matter what you're told, because we have to overcome obstacles like we all have gone through in our life. So thank you very much, Dr. Joy.
Thank you, and thank you very much. And so at this time, we've had the pleasure of being joined as a Legacy Bridges NASA Astro Camp. We're actually going to be witnessing or participating with the astronauts having a conversation with students from Louisiana. And so that launch is about to happen now.
Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Houston, this is Station. We are ready for the event.
Houston ACR, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call Station for a voice check.
Station, this is Houston ACR. How do you hear me?
Houston ACR, we have you loud and clear. How us?
Loud and clear. Please stand by for opening remarks.
Greetings from Louisiana. I'm Dr. Clint Coleman, the Program Administrator of La STEM, Louisiana STEM Education Workforce Initiative. La STEM consists of 9 regional STEM centers strategically located throughout Louisiana, connecting citizens with workforce opportunities that align with the demands of the 21st century. Today we are at the NASA Astro Camps in Lake Charles, Louisiana. This year our camp hosted over 5,000 campers at more than 70 different locations. It is with great enthusiasm that we are hosting our very first downlink event in the state, giving our campers a unique experience they won't soon forget. Now, without further ado, let's move on to our first question.
Hi, my name is Hannah, and my question is, what does it feel like in a spacesuit?
Hey, Dr. Coleman and all the students of La STEM, and especially Lake Charles, Louisiana, welcome to the International Space Station. And Woody just did a spacewalk, so I'm going to give him the mic and let him tell you about that, Hannah.
Hey Hannah, it's a great question. So the spacesuit is very large and bulky. We pressurized the spacesuit to about 4.3 pounds per square inch pressure above the vacuum of space outside. And because it's pressurized, it's fairly stiff and rigid. And so it's a little awkward to move around in. Your gloves are like big balloons, and so it takes a little bit of force to squeeze your hands and use them. But one of the good things is we get to experience this in something called the Neutral Buoyancy Lab, through a lot of training, and so we're very used to these sensations, and it's actually, with all that training, it's a lot of fun.
Hi, my name is Elijah. My question is how you sleep.
Hey, Elijah. You know what? We sleep really well in space because you don't have any pressure points. You just kind of float. And so where we actually sleep, it's called the crew quarters, and it's about the size of a phone booth. And in there, we have a sleeping bag, and it actually hangs on the wall because it doesn't really, we don't really sleep on the sleeping bag. We just sleep in the sleeping bag, and it keeps us in place. And if you've ever seen an ultrasound of a baby in the womb where they just kind of hang out with their knees up and their arms like that, your body tends to relax in that position. And so that's kind of what we look like. So the sleeping bag just keeps us in place while we float in our crew quarters.
Hi, my name is Ella, and my question is, do you have a goal on the space station, and have you achieved it?
Hey Ella, that is a great question. Let's see, I think back to mission control, where our flight controllers are operating the space station every day, and a lot of times they talk about their 3 biggest priorities, which are crew safety, vehicle safety, and mission success. And I kind of think of my goals in the same way. So making decisions that are going to keep us safe up here, taking care of the beautiful International Space Station, and then doing all the interesting science that's really our purpose up here. And so trying to do all 3 of those in that order is what I aim to do up here, and I think we've been pretty successful so far.
Hi, my name is Ella. My question is, how does it feel to walk in space?
Hey, Ella. Well, you know, I'll tell you about kind of 2 ways that we walk in space. So when we're outside doing a spacewalk, we actually use our hands because you're using rails to translate or walk from one place to the other to do your work. And your feet just kind of dangle. All for about 7 or 8 hours that you're doing the spacewalk, they just kind of sit there. And unless you need to use what's called an APFR, and that's where you kind of lock your feet in to help you keep you in place. But otherwise, we use our hands to do spacewalks. But in here, where we have our own little environment and we're kind of floating around without a spacesuit, we use both our hands and our feet. So we'll use our hands to get ourselves going, and then your feet you clip in by just kind of putting your toes underneath handrails. And we still call them handrails, even though for the most part they're foot rails. And you use your feet because that way it allows your hands to be free to do your work. Just like what he said, we have a lot of science to do up here, and so you need your hands to do all that work. And so we use our feet to keep us in place so that we don't float off all day.
Hi, my name is James. My question is, what is your favorite thing to do in space?
Hey, James, that's a great question. And for me, that's an easy one. So far, my very favorite thing has been spacewalking. Going outside the space station to do some repairs. In my case, I got to do 2 spacewalks, installing some new solar arrays up here. And it was just a really, really satisfying, fulfilling experience.
Hi, my name is Blake. My question is, how do y'all replenish oxygen on a space station?
Hey Blake, that's a great question because unfortunately we don't have a lot of trees up here in the space station, and but it is crucial, of course, that we keep oxygen here so that we can live. And so we have really one primary way, and that's called electrolysis. So our life support system takes the carbon dioxide out of the air so that it keeps it clean, and then to generate new oxygen we split water molecules, and we just use an electrical current, and that breaks up the water molecule, which as you know is H2O, and we get rid of the hydrogen and we keep the oxygen, and that's how we breathe up here.
Hi, my name is Kennedy, and my question is, what are the types of tasks that you must do on the space station daily?
Hey Kennedy, that is a great question. One of my favorite things up here is actually the variety, in the sense that every day is different. One day we might be spacewalking, another day we might be doing science, another day we might be doing maintenance. But there are a few things that we do almost every single day. We sleep, we eat, we got to go to the bathroom. We have a couple conferences every day with our control teams around the world. We have one called the Morning Daily Planning Conference and one called the Evening Daily Planning Conference, and that's just a chance to sync up with control teams. And then the final one that we spend a lot of time on is exercising. We need to stay strong for our return to Earth, and so we spend about 2.5 hours every day doing resistance exercise as well as cardiovascular exercise.
Hi, I'm Jonathan, and my question is, what's the coolest thing or trick you can do in space that's not possible here on Earth?
Hey Jonathan, well, I think all of us love to just float around. And I'll tell you about a fun game that we play. We call it astronaut bowling. But instead of trying to hit stuff, you're actually trying really hard not to hit anything. And we start on one end of the space station, and we push ourselves off, and we see how far we can get before we bump into anything. And anything that you touch lightly, right, because we don't really want to be bumping into anything really hard, because there's a lot of important electronics and life support items up here. So essentially, wherever you first touch something is where you're called out. And then whoever gets the furthest that day wins. So that's a lot of fun. Most of us can make it 10 to 20 feet, but sometimes you go all the way from where Crew Dragon is at the very front of the station, all the way to the end of the USOS module at Node 1, which is where we eat. And that's probably about 100 feet. That's a pretty good round of astronaut bowling.
Hi, my name is Carter, and my question is, what happens if you sneeze in space?
Hey Carter, it turns out sneezing up here is actually really similar to on Earth. It feels just the same, and just like on Earth, you don't want to maybe sneeze in front of other people and have them risk getting hit with your sneeze. So we try to be polite about it. Maybe sneeze into a tissue or into your arm, and make sure that it doesn't go off flying around up here.
Hi, my name is Julia, and my question is, how does the lack of gravity affect how you plan your day in space?
Hey Julia, that's a great question, and it kind of lets us talk about something as far as a slight misconception. So we actually do have gravity up here. What we don't have is called G-loading, and that's so we have about 90% of the Earth's gravity still present at this altitude, which is about 250 miles above the surface of the Earth. But the space station is going so fast that we're essentially matching the curvature of the Earth at this altitude. So at about 250 miles, going 17,000 miles per hour, even though we're constantly falling, we're falling at the same rate as the curvature of the Earth. So if you think about a ride, or when you go to an amusement park and you go up and over a hill, you feel that lack of G-loading. Or if you're lucky enough to be on a plane and you do a negative G maneuver, you'll feel the same effect, where you kind of feel your stomach come up. But here we don't have that sensation because we're in a steady state of falling, essentially. But yeah, so essentially we are just perpetually falling around the Earth. 15 times a day we go around the Earth because we're going so fast. And so all of that to say, we don't have a lack of gravity, but we do have a lack of that sensation of gravitational force, or what we call G-loading. And so because of that, like I said, we have to use our feet a lot to keep ourselves in place. We have to do things like using the restroom, right? Everyone wonders how we do that. And since you don't have gravity help you out, we essentially use airflow to create air movement and a vacuum to help things move in the right direction. So yeah, it just kind of helps you, or you have to use creative ways to make up for that lack of sensation of gravity. But we've been doing this for 23 years, and so we've got it pretty well down. And every time a new crew comes up, we just teach ourselves or each other those tips, and we keep on working.
Hi, my name is Aurora, and my question is, what do liquids look like and how do you drink in outer space?
Hey, Aurora, that's one of my favorite things up here. Liquids are really interesting up here, particularly water. So I'm going to get Frank's help here. We actually have some water that we can show you. The interesting thing up here is on Earth, where you have where water and liquids have weight, they obviously conform to the shape of the container that they're in. They fall to the bottom. Up here, they're all weightless. And so, as Frank's showing you, we get these bubbles. The forces are dominated by surface tension, and you can even drink these before they get too far away. And so the water's just beautiful up here. The dominant force at play is surface tension, and it causes the water to find a sort of minimum energy state, which turns out to be a perfect sphere. So if you wait long enough after you form one of these bubbles, all of the energy in the bubble slowly damps out, and you get a just perfect sphere, and it's just an absolute marvelous thing to play around with.
Hi, my name is Mason, and my question is, how is it like in outer space?
Hey Mason, you know what? It's really cool up here. One of the coolest parts is that we get to look down on the Earth from 250 miles up. Unfortunately, at that altitude, we only get to see about 300 miles, but that's still a really cool perspective. And we get to see all the beautiful blues and greens and browns that make up our wonderful planet. The other cool thing, like we said, is you get to float around all the time, so that's a lot of fun. And really the best thing, though, is that you get to be up here with your friends. So kind of like on Earth, you get to just enjoy everything and anything a lot more when you do it with friends.
Hi, I'm Matthew, and my question is, how do astronauts shower in space?
Hey Matthew, that's a really important one. We exercise a lot every day, we're sweating, so it's really important to be able to do what we call hygiene, or really showering. So we have a few items for that. One is what Frank's showing here is a hygiene towel. This is a towel, it's got a little bit of soap pre-impregnated into it, and we actually stick it into our water dispenser, which injects hot water into this foil packet, and you get a nice hot towel ready to go. So that's one of the components we use. I typically also use the water dispenser to fill up a bag full of just warm water to use, and I'll usually start with that hygiene towel and just towel myself off, and then kind of like we were showing earlier, since the water just sticks to anything, it sticks to yourself. So you can put the water on yourself, it just sticks in place, and you can actually use soap and get a little bit of a lather going. And then I take a dry towel, I wipe all that soap off, and then I usually do another round of sticking the water to myself, kind of making sure that I've cleaned up all the soap, and then toweling that off. So it's not quite as satisfying as a shower on Earth, but it works pretty well, and we stay quite clean up here.
Hi, my name is Naya, and my question is, how do you get rid of trash on a space station?
Hey, Naya. Yeah, that's a great question because we do generate a fair amount of trash up here. Because, for instance, we can't really do laundry, and so we will wear the same clothing for a few days, and then you change out, and you have to get rid of that clothing eventually, right? Same thing, our food comes up in these little packets to protect it from radiation, and you create a lot of trash just from all the protection that you use for your food. So what we do is we put all those things in these bags, we keep them really compact, and we store them. And when we get a new cargo spacecraft, like the Cygnus that just came up a few days ago, those cargo spacecraft come up with a lot of science, a lot of supplies, different items like that. So we take that all out, empty it out, and then we fill it back up with all of our trash. And not just anything that we generate, but also some of the science generates trash, or some of the equipment that breaks, and that can be considered trash if it's not going to go back to Earth and get fixed and get flown back up. So all of that stuff that becomes trash gets put back in, for instance, the Cygnus spacecraft. We fill it up as much as we can, close it up, and then those spacecraft don't have a heat shield. And so when they re-enter the atmosphere, they essentially just burn up. And so some of those shooting stars that you might see every once in a while might actually be trash from the ISS.
Hi, my name is Cooper, and my question is, do y'all ever leave the inside of the International Space Station?
Hey, Cooper, we sure do. Let's see. There's really only two ways that we do that. Number one, obviously, when we come back home, when we go back to Earth, we get in our spacecraft. So in my case, that is a SpaceX Dragon capsule. Frank flew up actually on a Soyuz spacecraft, but in either case, we get into that spacecraft and we head home. The other time we leave the space station, the inside of the space station, is during spacewalks. And so in that case, in here, we have one atmosphere of pressure. We're here in just normal clothing, t-shirts. We can survive easily in here. But out in the vacuum of space, we would not be able to survive. So we actually take our own little spacecraft, which is our spacesuit. And it's a self-contained system that keeps us alive out in the vacuum of space. So to go outside and do that, we get in something called the airlock. Once we're inside the airlock, we close a hatch, and we lower the pressure inside all the way down to vacuum, just like the outside of the space station. And then we open another hatch that takes us outside, and we get to go outside and do our work on our spacewalk.
Hi, my name is Leo, and my question is, when a rocket launches, does it break the sound barrier?
Hey, Leo. Well, you know, when we first launched, we start at 0, right? And it's a really heavy rocket because it takes a lot of rocket fuel to get us to outer space. So you actually start off pretty slow, but very, very quickly, your speed starts picking up. And so the sound barrier and the speed of sound is kind of a complicated question because some of that depends on your density altitude, right? Because how fast air travels depends on how dense the medium through which it's traveling is. And so at sea level, it's about 700 miles per hour. And so we get to that speed pretty quickly. And by the time we leave the atmosphere, we're traveling at about 15,000 miles per hour. So if you just look at the velocity, we're going quite a bit faster than the speed of sound. But the funny thing is, because once you leave our atmosphere, there is no air outside of the space station. Without any air, sound really can't travel. And so it'd be difficult to say that you're breaking the sound barrier in outer space. But you are going way, way faster than the speed of sound at sea level.
Hi, I'm Shannon Lafargue, the proud superintendent of the Calcaterra School System in Lake Charles, Louisiana. We are so excited that you took time out of your day to answer questions from our students here in our school system. In our school system, we preach creativity, innovation, and dreaming. Thank you for giving us the time. Thank you for giving us the possibility and the hope and the dream that our kids, maybe one day, can be in the International Space Station just like you. So, Godspeed, safe travels, and again, Calcaterra School System, Louisiana. Hopefully one day we'll be able to talk to you guys in person. Thanks. Bye.
Well, thank you so much. We just want to say on behalf of the Expedition 69 crew, it was a wonderful experience getting to talk to the students of the LA STEM program. you know, it wasn't long ago that I was your age in your shoes, and you know, just think a few years ahead, and your generation really is the future. You're going to be the people that innovate all the technical solutions to all the problems that the world faces. And maybe some of you one day may be up here in our place, in Frank and my place. So it was just a great honor getting to talk to you today, and follow your dreams.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event. Thank you.
Thank you to all participants. Station, we are now resuming operational audio communications.
We would like to thank each and every one of you today for joining us in this historic moment where we're bringing Air Force and space together. We're looking forward to us being leaders in the legacy and learning from our legends who are on, who has joined us today from the Air Force. Lieutenant Colonel George Hardy, we cannot thank you enough for your leadership. We're so happy that we have your colleague, Roscoe Draper, join us. And I believe Roscoe is 102 now.
He just recently celebrated his 104th birthday, May 14th.
104. Wow.
104, yes.
So this is amazing. And we want to thank General Bowie. We're excited about your retirement, but we're also looking forward to working with you.
I'm already signed up.
All right. Okay. And Colonel Johnson, thank you also for your leadership excellence and your diversity inclusion that you share with all of us, because this is what it takes for us to build those career pathways. And to all of our legends that have joined us today, our cadets, we are so proud of you. And we're looking forward to engaging with you and being a part of Legacy Bridges and the East Coast Tuskegee Airmen program. And we just can't thank you enough for all that you do. And Ernest Levert, rocket scientist, who has helped change the world. There's not too many people that we know that is a rocket scientist, but we have our very own. And he'll be working very closely with us, Lieutenant Colonel Branch, and all of the cadets. So I want to give a very special thank you to Chief Kilbrew, who helps me. I talk to Chief every week to help with his leadership. And Eddie, thank you for sharing our national initiative. And I also want to give a very special thank you to Charles Mann and Jackie Long. You two have really taken us to the next level on learning about technology at large conferences, such as the Air Force Sergeant Association. There are over 3,000 active leaders, Air Force and space leaders here. And civilians. So again, we thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to working with everyone, and have a wonderful and blessed day. Thank you so much.
Fantastic program, Dr. Joy.
Thank you.
Excellent. Sorry, I'm a little late.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Dr. Joy, you knocked it out the park.
It's being recorded. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Joy, for the program. We look forward to having other programs of this magnitude so we can get more of our young people involved in it.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Take care. Love you.
All right. Love you too. Thank you so much.
Always, Dr. Joy.
Thank you. We'll see each other real soon.
Colonel Hardy, thanks again. We appreciate you.
Well, thank you so much. Wonderful program.
Thank you.
Again, thank you all for your service. And Dr. Joy, thank you for the invitation. This was an amazing opportunity.
Thank you.
Everyone be blessed and enjoy the rest of your week.
You
Can't
too.
wait.
Thank you.
Can't wait to get with the kids. Dr. Joy, I've been there with NASA. Been there with my 5th grader. So
Absolutely. We'll be absolutely coordinating that.
yeah, ready to go.
Okay.